CEO's panic over missing translator revealed an incredible truth: only the black Maid's touching influence could save him. James, a 42-year-old CEO, was on the verge of sealing a life-changing international deal that would skyrocket his tech company to dizzying heights. But chaos erupted in his sleek downtown Chicago office. The central translator, essential for the negotiation process, was missing. He paced his pristine office, hands trembling as he tried to suppress rising panic. His glossy desk, cluttered with reports and schematics, reflected not just his ambition but the weight of his responsibilities. Suddenly, everything felt heavy, a burden he could barely carry. In the midst of this chaos, James caught sight of a weathered family photo tucked away in a corner. It was Clara, his elderly African-American maid, holding him as a child. The snapshot was tinged with warmth, a reminder of a home filled with love and nurturing. The image ignited memories of Clara's gentle hands that always seemed to wipe away his tears, her laughter echoing down the halls, and her heart, so expansive, it filled every inch of their modest home. In that brief moment, James felt a tightness in his chest. He dismissed her as just another background figure in his ambitious climb to success, neglecting the profound influence she had on his life. As morning transitioned into chaos, James felt the heat of frustration rising in his office. Discussions turned heated, employees shot anxious glances at each other. Meanwhile, Clara quietly shuffled about in the dark corners of their home. Unbeknownst to James, she was battling her own demons. Memories of her service as a decorated veteran, buried regrets of an estranged son weighed heavily upon her shoulders. As she dusted the picture frames of happier times, she hesitated, caught in a web of her own unacknowledged adversity. James was oblivious not just to the turmoil around him but also to the neighborhood struggles that were brewing just outside his glass fortress. The news broke about a community event at risk of cancellation due to economic cuts. James barely heard the buzz, lost in his relentless pursuit. Yet, Clara, with a quiet strength, rallied their neighbors around her, a beacon of hope radiating from her wise presence. The community buzzed with outrage and shared purpose, but here she was, their anchor, standing strong even when overlooked. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day dragged on, and desperation seeped deeper into the business meeting, James felt a stirring within him. He grappled with a choice: pursue that lucrative deal with its glossy promise crowned with respect and money, or heed the lesson Clara was inadvertently teaching him about loyalty, resilience, and community. The blaring questions echoed in his mind: what truly mattered? Was it the faceless hierarchy of success, or the warmth of a vibrant community? In that pivotal moment, Clara's gentle reminder of home and unconditional love became a loud whisper against his corporate ambitions, a call he could no longer ignore. As the tension mounted, he was left standing at a crossroads of heart and ambition. Would he grasp Clark's hand and let her lead him into a world where true worth transcended wealth? Or would he remain shackled by the glitter of success, blind to the invaluable lessons whispering softly in the shadows? James stepped back from the swirling chaos of his office and took a deep breath. The weight of the universe pressed down on him, but in the quiet of that moment, a flicker of clarity emerged. Clara's presence, though distant now, loomed large in his mind. Her unwavering support during his childhood resonated like a familiar, comforting melody. He hadn't discussed her influence on his life, he had tucked it away like so many other things, but now that past seeped into the forefront of his thoughts. With a renewed sense of purpose, he left his office, earbuds still in. He had to find her. A feeling tugged insistently at his heart. As he navigated the bustling office halls, the chatter and hurried footsteps faded into a dull roar. The world outside felt so vibrant, yet here he was, trapped within the glittering confines of ambition. He stepped outside, taking in the street sights and sounds, and suddenly, he felt small in comparison to the immensity of life unfolding around him. At home, Clara was silently persevering, her hands moving meticulously across the surfaces of their modest dwelling. The sunlight cast soft rays through the window, highlighting dust particles dancing in the air. She felt that sinking feeling in her chest once again, the ache of all she sacrificed and the distance that grew deeper with every passing year. Clara missed her son terribly, lost somewhere in the fog of resentment and regret. While she could inspire the community with her strength, inside she felt disheartened, grappling with feelings of inadequacy, wishing her efforts would extend beyond their neighborhood. Just then, a knock on the door broke her reverie. Reluctantly, she opened it to find James standing there, an expression of uncertainty written across his face. "Clara," he said, his voice unsteady. "Can we talk?" She motioned for him to come inside, her heart racing. James stepped in, taking in every familiar detail that reminded him of home. The smell of freshly baked cornbread wafted through the air like a warm embrace. As they settled in the tiny kitchen, he finally let the floodgate open. He poured out the stories of his childhood, the lessons learned at the feet of the woman before him. He spoke of how her quiet strength had shaped him, unknowingly guiding him through his relentless chase of success. Clara nodded, her heart swelling with both pride and sadness. "James, you always had a good heart. You just lost sight of it among all the noise." The words hit home. An electric current passing between them snapped James further into reality. This was a conversation he had needed, not just for himself, but for Clara too. The journey they had taken was intertwined, he needed to acknowledge that. "Clara, there is something happening in the community," he said, urgency edging his voice. "I want to help. I want to bring resources and support. We can make a difference." Tears welled in her eyes. It was as if he had lifted a burden from her shoulders. "But how?" she asked softly, barely daring to hope. James felt the tight knot of ambition loosen as he spoke. "Through partnership and respect. Imagine what we could accomplish if we bring everyone together by letting their voices be heard." Clara's heart raced, enthusiasm bubbling beneath her worn surface. Could it be possible? The skeptical part of her wanted to retreat, but she could see it igniting in James' eyes, a vision of hope. As plans began to take shape, James felt a profound sense of purpose override his previous chase of individual success. He no longer wanted to be the lone wolf gathering trophies but rather a part of something larger, a family forged in community spirit. But as the sun began to set outside, casting long shadows within their small kitchen, James felt a pang deep in his gut. Would the business partners he relied on support this new direction? Fear crept back in, mingling with the excitement as he realized there was another battle ahead. "Clara," he said, determination wavering, "what if they don't want to partner with us? What if they ignore the community?" Little did he know that the next morning would unveil challenges he never anticipated, ones that would test both their spirits and commitment to each other. Would their newfound hope endure against adversity? James woke early the next day, his mind racing with thoughts of the community project. He could practically hear the buzz of excitement in the air, the potential of change waiting to break free. Yet, that familiar knot of unease had set in, wrapped tightly around his stomach. What if his vision unraveled? What if the partners turned their backs on him? He glanced at his reflection in the bathroom mirror and forced a smile, but the apprehension was palpable. With determination, he brushed his teeth, splashed cold water on his face, and tried to gather the strength he felt the night before. He made his way to the local cafe where he had set up a meeting with his business partners. The aroma of coffee filled the air, mingling with the scent of warm pastries, offering a fleeting comfort. As he set down his laptop, he caught sight of Clara across the street, bustling with life as she organized a small event in the park. A surge of pride warmed his chest. She was ready for this, and so was he. As his partners arrived, the chatter around the cafe faded. Seats scraped against the floor as they gathered. Each face was a blend of skepticism and curiosity. James took a deep breath, preparing to lay out his vision. "Thank you for coming, everyone," he started, forcing himself to meet their eyes. "I wanted to talk about something important, an initiative for the community." The words tumbled out, carrying with them his passion and urgency. He could see their reactions shift, eyes narrowed, eyebrows raised. His pulse quickened as he detailed Clara's ideas, how they wanted to unify voices that had been silenced for so long. As he spoke, he tried to read their responses, but the atmosphere shifted dramatically. "James, this all sounds well and good, but we need profit," one of his partners interrupted, a sharp edge to her voice. "You want to save the world, but we're running a business here." Disappointment settled in like a heavy fog, pushing against the high aspirations James had just voiced. He glanced back at the window, catching a glimpse of Clara laughing, surrounded by children preparing for their event. "I know that," he replied, determination building. "But a thriving community is good for business. We can't just look at numbers, we need to invest in people." He received only blank stares and whispers. James could feel doubt creeping in, drowning out his optimism. They were more focused on profit margins than potential change. "Think about it," he pressed on. "Together, we can build relationships that matter. Get involved where it counts. How can we ignore our responsibility to give back?" The tension in the room grew thick. Silence hung as each partner considered his words. James sought a sign of agreement, hoping to find one flicker of understanding. Finally, a voice broke through the stillness. It was Abe, a partner known for his support but often quietly in the background. "What you're suggesting is risky, James. What will people think if it fails? We could lose everything." His words landed like heavy stones, but beneath the weight, a spark of resilience flickered in James' heart. "What will they think if we don't even try?" He countered, desperation creeping in. He turned to the window, watching Clara engage with the community. "She believes in people. I believe in her. Together, we can change lives." The partners exchanged glances, uncertainty mixed with intrigue. The silence persisted, stretching for what felt like an eternity, and just as James felt the last threads of hope unravel, the bell above the door jingled. A familiar presence entered, sending shockwaves through the room. Clara stood at the threshold, her energy radiant. "James," she called out, and suddenly, the focus shifted. Would she sense the tension and tip the scales in his favor? Or had he already lost his chance? As Clara stepped closer, all eyes turned to her. The question loomed heavily in the air: could she see the truth that James desperately wanted to unveil? Clara's entrance lit the room. Her smile was wide and infectious, contrasting sharply with the heaviness hanging over James and his partners. She walked with purpose, her presence a grounding force. James couldn't help but feel a rush of hope stir within him again. "James, I just got back from the park. The kids are so excited." Clara's enthusiasm filled the air. She glanced around the table, noticing the serious expressions on everyone's faces. "What is going on? You all look like you just lost a game of poker." "Clara, we were just discussing the community initiative," James said, his voice steadier than he felt. "I was trying to explain how we can make a real difference together." "Right," she replied, her eyes flashing with understanding. "It's essential. But it's more than just that. It's about creating a community we can all be proud to live in." The partners shifted uncomfortably. They hadn't expected her to jump right into the conversation. James could feel the energy in the room change slightly. Their skepticism wavered, if only for a moment. "Clara's right," he interjected, finding a new anchor in her honesty. "This isn't just a project, it's a commitment to our home. Can't you see how invigorating it would be to be part of this change? To inspire others?" Clara took a seat beside him, her presence invigorating. "You guys need to understand, this isn't just about money. Yes, we want to be a successful business. But a thriving community means thriving lives, and that's what we should strive for. What if people knew our names not just for products or profits but for our hearts?" Silence fell, and James could almost hear the gears turning in his partners' heads. Some exchanged glances, as if something was finally clicking. Clara had dug deeper, tapping into emotions that numbers and statistics could never capture. What you're proposing requires trust, Abe finally spoke, his voice softer now, exploring the idea. But it could work, if we can find a way to mitigate risk. James felt a wave of gratitude for Clara wash over him. We'll figure it out together. We can come up with creative solutions, he said, feeling momentum build. There's a way to ensure this is beneficial for everyone. We just need to go in with open minds. Maybe we could start with a pilot program? Another partner suggested, their tone shifting. See how the community responds first. Yes. Clara's eyes shone. That way, we learn what works and what doesn't without overcommitting. As they began hashing out ideas, a tentative energy pulsed through the room. James felt a stronger connection to Clara now, as if her belief in the project had reignited his own. He was still scared, but her presence breathed life into the conversation, nudging out the shadows. Moments passed as they juggled ideas of community engagement, local partnerships, and outreach programs. Hope soared higher, stretching toward an uncertain future that seemed less daunting. Then suddenly, Clara turned to James, a seriousness creeping into her expression. I want you to promise me something. Whatever happens, don't lose your faith in this vision. People need to know their worth. People need to feel heard. James nodded, his heart swelling. Her words struck a chord deep within him. As the discussion continued, he could see glimmers of support around the table. Perhaps they were starting to see what he had seen all along. The meeting was transforming, and the initial tension melted into a sense of possibility, but just as James felt the tide turning, a figure entered the cafe. It was Marissa, the accountant. Her expression was anxious as she approached the table, fear in her eyes. James, we need to talk. Now. His stomach dropped, and the joy that had just settled felt like a distant memory. What could possibly have gone wrong? As she motioned for him to step away, the atmosphere shifted again and an uneasy silence took over. What could change everything in the blink of an eye? James followed Marissa out of the bustling cafe, the weight of her urgent tone pressing down on him like lead. As they stepped outside, the cool air hit him, a stark contrast to the warm atmosphere filled with possibility just moments before. He could see the sunlight glinting off the storefronts, but it felt muted now, as if the brightness had dimmed. What is going on? He asked, trying to maintain a calm facade. He could see Marissa's lips pursed, her brow furrowed. That was never a good sign. It's about the investors, she started, her voice low and serious. There's been a hiccup with the paperwork. We could lose funding for the community initiative if it isn't sorted out immediately. A chill shot through James. They had just begun to dream, to weave together the plans that could spark genuine change in their town. What do you mean, a hiccup? The translator you hired for the contracts, well, the company called to say that she's gone missing. They can't locate her, and without her signature, we can't move forward. His heart sank. They had depended on that contract to launch their pilot program. Gone missing? He echoed, feeling the panic rise in his throat. What does that even mean? Marissa shook her head. I don't know. I was just told that she didn't show up for a meeting last night. They're trying to find her, but time was not on their side. Their newfound commitment to the community hung precariously on the edge, susceptible to collapse with every passing second. Do we even have a backup plan? James asked, his mind racing. Clara's confidence, the conversation around the table, it all felt like a far-off dream now. I'm working on it, she replied. But, it's not just the paperwork. If word gets out that one of our key players is missing, it could change everything about how investors perceive us. James ran a hand through his hair, frustration mingling with fear. We can't let this fall apart now. I refuse to believe that. You need to talk to the team, Marissa said, her voice firm. They need to know what's at stake if we don't get this resolved. We can't let negativity spread when we're so close to making an impact. Right, he murmured, but he felt like he was spinning in circles. The thrill of their plans now felt like a distant memory, fading under this new cloud of uncertainty. As they turned to head back inside, Clara caught his eye through the cafe window. She was leaning forward, her animated expression frozen in place as she spoke, likely unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the threshold. "When I get back in there," he said with determination, "I'm going to reassure them. First, we focus on the vision and the potential for good. We have to keep the energy high." Marissa nodded, but the worry in her eyes remained. "Just be ready for questions, James. They'll want to know what's happening and why." As they re-entered the cafe, James felt the pressure build. He could sense Clara's warmth, but the room also intensified with expectation. His partners looked up at him, eager yet cautious. They were all waiting for his next move. He took a deep breath, steeling himself against the uncertainty. "Everyone," he said as he stepped back to the table, "we need to address something critical. We're on the verge of something amazing, but we have a challenge ahead." The buzz in the room quieted, all eyes fixed on him. He could see the hope and apprehension flickering together in their gazes. Something that could change everything. He began, feeling the weight of their future resting on his shoulders. What would he say to keep their vision alive? What bold step could he take to pull them back from the brink? James felt the air thicken with anticipation. He looked around the table at his friends and colleagues, each face a mix of hope and worry. He tried to latch onto their optimism, finding strength in their shared dreams. But the words felt heavy in his throat. We need to stay focused," he finally said, forcing his voice to steady. "This hiccup with the translator, while serious, isn't the end. We've worked too hard to let one obstacle derail us." Clara leaned forward, brows knitted. "But losing funding could mean, everything falls apart, James. Do we even have a plan B? Is there another translation service?" He shook his head. "I don't know yet, but we will find one. There's got to be someone out there who can help us." Marissa stepped beside him, her resolve clear. "There are options. We can reach out to other firms, a backdoor situation if we need to. We just need to keep our heads cool." James nodded, feeling the slightest flicker of hope. "We have to operate as if we're going to succeed. We need to rally together. This is still our project. Imagine what we can accomplish for the community." He caught Carl's eye, the tech wizard whose innovative ideas had shaped their vision. "Carl, do you think we could even look into some online resources? Maybe find someone experienced with community initiatives?" Carl rubbed the back of his neck, the wheels visibly turning in his mind. "You know, I might have a few contacts from a previous project. It won't hurt to try. That's the spirit." James encouraged, feeling the atmosphere shift slightly in their favor. "Let us all brainstorm ideas. You know, the passion we have can't just go away because of this hiccup. Think of how many lives we can touch." In that moment, a ghost of a smile played across some faces. The energy around the table seemed to morph. Fear was trading places with determination, yet doubt crept in as quickly as the resolve had built. Behind that camaraderie, James could still feel the sinking weight of uncertainty. "We can't let any whispers of this undermine what we're trying to do. Let us keep this internal until we know what we're working with." Everyone murmured agreements, but James could sense the pulse of anxiety. While they hoped to pivot their focus to solutions, that headache of the missing translator loomed like a dark cloud. "Why don't we break and see what we can find?" Marissa suggested, looking around the group. "Maybe we can get to the bottom of the translator's disappearance as well." "Agreed," James said, feeling a renewed urgency. "Let us mobilize. We've got to act fast. What people don't see is how much we believe in this, how much we care." As they began to divide tasks, James felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. He worked to suppress the gnawing feeling, focusing on the action ahead. His phone buzzed in his pocket, an unexpected distraction that yanked his attention. He retrieved it, heart racing, praying it was news about the translator. But the name on the screen didn't belong to the missing woman. Instead, It was an unknown number. Treasured moments flickered through his head, dreams of united neighborhoods, families gathering, children laughing. He answered, ready for anything, hoping for clarity. James Miller. A voice on the line said, thick with urgency. Yes, who is this? I'm calling about the translator. We need to talk, now. His heart dropped. Suddenly, desperation wrapped around him like a vice. What did this mean? James exchanged glances with Marissa, who now stood rigid, eyes wide. They both realized, instants before the words fell, something pivotal was about to unfold. Where are you? He demanded, breath shortening with anticipation. As the answer echoed through the phone, a chilling unease settled in. Look, I don't have time to explain. But you need to understand things are not what they seem. What lay ahead could alter everything. One truth could shatter their understanding of the situation entirely. James's heart raced as he prepared for the answer that could either save or destroy their dreams. James's grip on the phone tightened, a bead of sweat forming at his temple. Just tell me, he urged, voice nearly breaking. What's happened to the translator? The voice hesitated, as if weighing the gravity of its next words. She's in trouble, James. Deep trouble. And if you don't act fast, it could cost you everything you've built or worse. Marissa's eyes darted to him. He felt a surge of conflicting emotions, fear, anger, and a flicker of determination. What do you mean trouble? Is she in danger? Yes, the voice replied grimly. And it's connected to what you're trying to do. You need to meet me at the old community center on Maple Street. It's not safe to talk here. James looked around at his friends, confusion written across their faces. Every second felt like an eternity. Wait, who are you? I'll explain everything when you arrive. Trust me, it's crucial. And with that, the line went dead. James? Marissa asked, her voice slicing through the fog of uncertainty. What did they say? They claim something is wrong with the translator. They want me to meet them at the old community center. His mind raced, recalling that place, a rundown building, once a hub of creativity, now mostly forgotten. Clara leaned in. Do you think it's safe? I don't know, he admitted. But I have to find out. If she's in real danger, he trailed off, realizing how much they relied on her. I'll come with you, Marissa said firmly, her voice calming yet resolute. No, you guys need to keep working here. Figure out other translation services, reach out to those contacts. I need to handle this alone. James could see the challenge in their eyes. It felt wrong, isolating, to walk into the unknown like this without his team. But he sensed urgency, they needed to safeguard their vision. Just he hesitated, emotions welling up, be careful. We can't afford to lose focus. With that, he left the room, determination propelling his footsteps forward. As he approached the community center, memories flooded back, vibrant events held there, laughter, the feeling of unity. Now, the peeling paint and locked doors felt like a tomb of those once shared dreams. An unsettling quiet surrounded the place. He hesitated just outside, a shiver running down his spine. This was about more than a translator. It was about everything they hoped to build together, the people they wanted to serve. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in the dimness of the entryway. It was difficult to make out their face, but James could feel a mix of tension and urgency radiating from them. You came, the person said, stepping into a sliver of light. It was a woman, her features sharp but weary, with eyes that held secrets. Who are you? He asked, instinctively backing up a step. We don't have time, she implored, urgency suffusing her tone. She's in more danger than you realize. There are powerful people who want to silence the project. And they've already made their move. What do you mean? James felt the pieces swirling. How far did this go? Your translator found something she shouldn't have. And now, it's up to you to decide how far you're willing to go to uncover the truth, before it's too late. The weight of her words crashed over him, igniting both fear and resolve. James faced a moment that could reshape everything. He had to choose to step into the unknown or retreat to safety. "Tell me everything," he demanded, steeling himself for what he might uncover. The woman took a breath, ready to unravel the tangled thread of fate. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a revelation that would test everything he stood for. "And you need to prepare yourself," she warned, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Because it's going to get very dark." With his heart pounding, James realized he was at the edge of a terrifying truth that could turn the entire mission on its head. What had his team really stumbled into? And at what cost would unveiling the truth come? James's thoughts raced. The woman in front of him, with her sharp features and haunted eyes, felt like a piece of a puzzle he didn't know existed. "What do you know? Who's behind this?" He pressed, fighting the rising tide of panic. She hesitated, her gaze darting to the empty street outside as if expecting shadows to come alive. "Names don't matter right now. What matters is the translation project. Your translator." She stumbled upon something dangerous. Something that connects them all. Her voice dropped, as though speaking a truth that could trigger unseen repercussions. "Dangerous how?" His heart thundered. This needed to sound bizarre, yet the weight of her simple words pulled him into a reality far from ordinary. "It's not just about languages or lost meanings," she said, her voice growing urgent. "It's about power, influence, and control. They'll do anything to protect their interests. If they think she's a liability, they won't hesitate to remove her." The air felt thicker suddenly, suffocating. "So you're saying they want to silence her?" "Yes," she confirmed, pushing her hands into her pockets, her shoulders tight. "Everyone involved in the project is at risk, including you. They can't afford to let the truth come out." James swallowed hard. He thought of his team, their dreams, their hopes, their efforts to make communication accessible across cultures. What was she going to expose? The woman stepped closer, lowering her voice even more. "A network of corruption, involving people in positions of power who profit off of miscommunication. Your project has the potential to expose all of it. That's why they can't let her live to tell the tale." Fear pricked at his spine as the implications sank in. If they had connected with someone so powerful, a hidden web of agendas surrounded them. "What do we do?" he asked, desperation creeping in. "We need to get to her before they do," she replied firmly. "There's a safe house where she might be hiding. If we move quickly, we can beat them to it. But I need your complete trust. I can't do this alone." James hesitated, his mind replaying every moment he and his team had spent crafting their dream. This wasn't just about a single person anymore, it transcended to the very core of what they stood for. "I trust you," he said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "Good," she nodded, determination lighting her eyes. "But we have to hurry." As the two of them dashed down the darkened streets, James's heart raced with every footfall. He was stepping into a world filled with shadows and threats, pushing towards an endpoint he could barely understand. Alongside him, her calm urgency felt anchoring amidst the chaos swirling inside him. "Who are you?" he asked again, catching up to her quick pace. It seemed as if she had chosen this moment to be a reluctant ally. "Just someone who knows how dangerous it can get when people start to connect the dots. I used to work for them, but I couldn't stand by any longer." The confession hung in the air, striking a balance between trust and skepticism. "Why help me?" "Because it twists in my gut to see manipulation like this go unchecked. I want to see the truth come out, for her, for everyone affected by this." Their footsteps fell in sync, but doubt gnawed at him. How much did he really know about her? Who could he trust? He had put everything on the line in pursuit of this mission, but now it felt bigger than himself. As they approached the designated house, the gut-wrenching uncertainty clawed at his insides. What if we're too late? Then we fight for what's left, she said resolutely, eyes narrowing at the door ahead, the possibility of danger hanging heavy in the air. But we can't back down now. With the weight of their choices before them, James prepared for what lay ahead. Would uncovering the truth about the conspiracy result in saving more than just their project? Or would it lead to futures far darker than he ever considered? As they pushed through the door, a world waiting to be revealed stood before them. But silence greeted them, and with it, the chilling realization sunk in this was only the beginning of something much more perilous than he had imagined. What lay hidden in that house could reshape their lives forever or destroy everything in an instant. The air was thick with tension as James and the woman stepped inside the dimly lit safe house. The door creaked and jolted, echoing ominously through the empty space. Dust particles danced in the beams of moonlight spilling through the curtained windows, creating an eerie yet hauntingly beautiful atmosphere. "Where is she?" James whispered, scanning the room with anxious eyes. The woman moved gracefully through the space, her instincts sharper than James's, her movements almost feline as she swept away a few stray threads of cobwebs hanging from the corner. "Check the back rooms," she said, her voice a mix of urgency and silence. The faded wallpaper and peeling paint only heightened the sensation of abandonment. Each step felt heavier, the weight of what they were searching for hanging in the air like a thick fog. James pushed open the first door on the left, revealing a small bedroom, stark and uninviting. No sign of life, no sign of her. Gritting his teeth in frustration, he could feel time slipping away. How much longer could they afford to search? A tingling sensation of dread gripped at his heart. "James! Over here!" The woman called out from the far end of the house. He hurriedly made his way toward her voice, his feet pounding against the old wooden floor, a steadier rhythm of hope flooding his chest. When he reached her, he found her crouched near another door, hands on her knees, her expression fierce and focused. "It's locked," she hissed, glancing up at James as if gauging his reaction. "I can break it down," he offered, adrenaline surging through him as he felt his body respond to the moment. But she shook her head. "No, we can't draw attention. We'll have to find another way." He nodded reluctantly, stepping back to give her room. She moved closer to the door and examined it, frowning slightly. "There might be a key or a window," she said, biting her lip. James felt hopelessness creeping back in. What if she's not in there? She has to be. Her eyes softened for a moment, and James felt a wave of empathy for the weight she carried. They were both fighting for more than just one life. They were battling against a much larger force, one that could unravel everything they believed in. Finally, the woman straightened up, her voice stronger. "We need to search the rest of this place. There's no time to waste." They swept through the remaining rooms, hearts racing with each creak of the floorboards. The tension mounted as they checked every nook and cranny, and just as despair began to settle in, James saw something out of the corner of his eye, a flicker of movement through a half-open window in the back room. "Wait!" he whispered urgently. He pushed past the woman and rushed toward the window, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Outside, the night was cloaked in darkness, but moonlight illuminated a figure crouched beneath a bush. It was her. "Over here!" he shouted breathlessly, waving his arms desperately. At the sound of his voice, the figure turned, eyes wide with fear. It was her, the translator. Relief washed over him in an overwhelming wave, like sunlight breaking through a dreary sky. But before he could call out again, he saw the flash of headlights illuminating the yard. "They're here!" the woman hissed, urgency flooding her voice. "We need to get her inside, now." James felt panic flare within him. There was no time to lose, no room for hesitation. With every step toward the window, he could feel the darkness closing in. He had to protect her. They stealthily moved toward the entrance, hearts thundering in unison as they prepared for what came next. If they could make it through tonight, perhaps they could forge a path towards the truth. The stakes had never been higher, and with danger lurking just outside, he could only wonder what would unfold when the sun rose again. The moment was charged, a flicker of hope enveloped in uncertainty. Would they find safety together, or would this be the turning point that unraveled everything? They were not just running against time, they were racing against the shadows of the past. And into the uncertain light of what they could become. James's heart raced as he crouched low, urgency pushing him forward. He could see the translator, her face etched with fear, hidden just outside the window. She needed them, but time was slipping away fast. "She's here!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the musty air as panic ignited the space around them. The woman beside him urged him toward the door, her eyes darting nervously outside. "Get her inside. Now!" Together, they bolted for the back door, the urgency propelling them into a frenzy. As the door swung open, James spotted the translator darting toward them, her silhouette against the dim light framing the window. Just as she reached them, headlights swept across the yard, bathing everything in stark illumination. "Quick!" James shouted, his voice now taut with tension. "Get in!" They scrambled back inside, the aura of safety lingering only just out of reach. As they slammed the door shut behind them, the fist of fear gripped James's chest. He could feel a storm brewing outside, both in the darkness gathering around them and within him. "Is she okay?" he whispered urgently to the woman beside him. The translator stood shivering, wide-eyed and breathless. The woman knelt down next to her, her demeanor softening as she spoke gently. "You're safe now. We're here to help." James's heart swelled with both gratitude and concern. This was the crux of everything, the fragile connection they were all fighting for. "What happened?" he asked the translator, trying to mask his own fear with calm determination. I overheard something. They're planning to sabotage your project," she stammered, shaking slightly. "I didn't know who to trust, but then they realized I was listening." "What do you mean they're planning to sabotage? Who are they?" James pressed, feeling the web of conspiracy tightening around them. "The people behind the funding," she whispered. "They don't want your project to succeed because it threatens their control. They knew I found out about something connected to your translator services and their dealings. So they sent people after me. They'll do anything to keep it quiet." James felt a sinking heaviness in his heart. Everything they had worked for was at risk. But as he looked at the faces of the two women in front of him, one scared and vulnerable, the other fierce and unyielding, he felt a flicker of hope ignite. "Then we fight back," he declared. "We take this to the community. We share the truth." The woman next to him nodded, a steely determination shining in her eyes. "You're right. The more people know, the harder it will be for them to operate in the shadows." "What if they come for us?" the translator asked, her voice trembling. "Then we stand together," James replied, his voice steady. "We're stronger as a team. And I won't let them tear us apart." With urgency, they concocted a plan, one that would involve Clara, his business partners, and the community they all sought to unite. As they prepared to leave the house, adrenaline coursing through their veins, James couldn't shake the feeling they were stepping into something much larger than themselves. It was daunting, but also exhilarating. Just as they cracked open the door, the familiar warmth of the community spirit radiated in the air, mingling with the biting chill of the night. They emerged as a powerful trio, marching toward the light of change. The street was awash with vibrant energy, people moving about, unaware of the dangers lurking. "Look, there's Clara!" James exclaimed, spotting her animatedly chatting with neighbors in the park. He felt drawn toward her, needing her strength to guide their efforts. "Clara!" he called out, urgency lacing his voice. She turned, eyes wide with concern as she rushed toward them. "James! What is going on?" she asked, her gaze darting to the translator, sensing the tension. "The project is in danger," James said, glancing between her and the woman beside him. "We need to rally everyone. We need to make sure they know what's really happening." Clara's determination ignited, and she nodded, the weight of their mission settling on her shoulders. "Then let us do it. We'll gather the people together, we can expose the truth. As they moved forward, the small group quickly grew, neighbors rallied, both excited and concerned, ready to hear their call. The energy was electric, and for the first time, James felt a bond between everyone. Their backgrounds, struggles, and aspirations fused into something beautiful. Before long, a crowd surrounded them, and James stood at the forefront, his heart pounding in unison with the voices of his community. He felt alive. Everyone. He began, raising his voice. What connects us is more powerful than what divides us. There's a danger threatening not just our community, but also the very essence of what we're building together. They're trying to silence our voices and keep the truth hidden. The murmur of agreement washed through the crowd, reaffirming their unity. Clara stepped beside him, her presence grounding and warm. We need to band together. This isn't just about one project or one person, it's about all of us. Empowerment surged within him, and he continued, with every challenge we face, we also find strength. They want us to stand down, but we want. We'll lift each other, fight for the visibility this community deserves. The crowd erupted in cheers, the energy rippling outward, brighter than James had ever experienced. They had found their strength, their purpose, and it was beautiful. As Clara linked her arm with James, he felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He had once been lost in the maze of ambition, but now he saw the potential for something greater, the power of unity, healing, and unwavering resilience. Together, they had ignited a fire, one that would burn brighter with every truth unveiled. Now, let us stand up for justice. James cried, the words echoing into the night. As the crowd moved forward, a sense of hope radiated around them. James knew they would face challenges ahead, but this beautiful moment of transformation and unity, it would guide them through the darkness and into the light. Together, they would become a force that could be reckoned with. As the community gathered, the world outside their modest bubble felt expansive. This was not just a fight for a project, but a fight for their lives, dreams, and futures. And he would stand at the helm, steering toward change, nourished by the love he had once taken for granted. The path lay ahead, lit by the hearts of many, not just his, but all of theirs intertwining as one. Now's your time to support the journey. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive stories filled with inspiration. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love. Tell us your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending in the comments. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Thank you.